and welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I would take a little bit of a look at WWE's WrestleMania weekend. I'm not going to go into the matches in depth. I thought why not actually just sit down and do a video where I go through the predictions that I made previously, give a couple of my thoughts on the matches of both WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday, and see what has happened. I've just actually watched WrestleMania Night 2, WrestleMania Sunday. I couldn't stay up live to watch, but I've watched that and most of the post show press conference as well. So, obviously, I think generally WrestleMania 41 was a really good weekend. I thought there were some excellent matches. Overall, I think it was a pretty good WrestleMania. Before I get into talking about that, though, I do want to actually discuss an announcement that was made on Saturday in one of the build up shows to WrestleMania, which was WWE's acquisition, as it was termed, of Mexican wrestling promotion Triple A. This is one that is genuinely major news. I know that a lot of fans don't really tend, some fans anyway, don't tend to kind of look outside of WWE or America for wrestling promotions, and some people unfortunately have the kind of view that if it's wrestling outside of the United States, it doesn't really matter and doesn't really concern anybody. But obviously, there is professional wrestling literally worldwide. And Triple A is certainly a major promotion in Mexico, and this obviously changes the scene in Mexico to a huge degree. Certainly, in about 10 years ago now, when WWE were kind of ramping up to launch what eventually became NXT UK, there was a lot of rumours that WWE would be actually launching various different kind of regional NXTs as developmental territories. So they might have like NXT UK, maybe NXT Mexico, which I've seen the clickbait titles on a couple of them that maybe NXT would rename Triple A as NXT Mexico, which I don't think will or should happen. There's obviously been rumours lately that perhaps the rumoured NXT Europe might still happen, and obviously people contemplated with maybe NXT Australia, NXT Japan, and all that kind of stuff, which obviously has never come to fruition right now. Whether that is been because of the pandemic, because that's kind of really one large areas that affected NXT UK. Maybe whether WWE have got actually thoughts on setting up these kind of NXT or take some kind of regional base. It's really difficult to know, but there have been comments in interviews um, about, I think it's from Triple H, that he and Nick Khan have talked about over the years at least about wouldn't it be great to have so many various different wrestling companies under the one umbrella. So I wouldn't really rule out, to be honest. Now, and Lucha Libre Triple A have actually put up a statement on their X account and on their social media accounts. Thankfully, I was able to use the Snip tool and Google Translate to translate it. I do want to read it out because they do call it a strategic alliance, although obviously WWE are terming it as they have acquired the company, which I understand to be all that's being said. They have actually bought the company in collaboration with a Mexican company called Philippe, I believe it's pronounced. So Triple A's uh, statement. This is, I'll read the whole thing out. It's not too long, so I think it is worth reading out. Of course, it states Lucha Libre AAA Worldwide announces a new era with WWE and Philippe. Lucha Libre AAA was born in 1992 as a dream of Antonio Pena, a man who dared to reinvent wrestling. to imagine the impossible and to create a new way of telling stories about the ring. His vision changed the industry forever. Today, more than 30 years later, his legacy lives on in every performance, in every character, in every fan who chants our battles. That legacy was continued by Maricela Pena and Joaquin Roldan, and he has been our compass ever since. To make AAA a family, a tradition, and a platform of opportunities for Mexican talent. In 2025, that same legacy drives us to make the most important step in our history. With emotion and deep respect for our roots, we announce a strategic alliance with WWE, the giant and global leader of wrestling, and Philippe, the Mexican company specialized in I assume it means revitalizing, iconic sports and entertainment properties. Again, it's through Google Translate, which together will drive the fight forward, free Mexican markets regionally and globally, marking the beginning of a new era for Mexican AAA. This alliance is not a farewell to who we are. It is a promise to carry our essence to new audiences, to strengthen our structure, to open more doors to our wrestlers, and to show that Mexican wrestling has a place on the global stage. We will continue to be AAA, passionate, vibrant, Mexican, but now with new allies, new resources, and a global vision. Thank you to our fans, our talent, and everyone who has believed in this cause from day one. The best is yet to come. Forever Lucha Libre AAA worldwide. That is the statement made, and again, this is genuinely a major shift in the world of professional wrestling. AAA is again legitimately one of the big two companies in Mexico. Like in other places, there are lots of different independent companies, but definitely they're the kind of the AEW and WWE uh, of Mexico when it comes to AAA and CMLL. CML is I believe, still more kind of sports based. AAA over the years has been a little bit more entertainment based, especially with some of the characters like La Parca, who I guess is now, who's just actually been recast. Obviously, the original La Parca left to go elsewhere. The tragic passing of the gentleman who replaced him and was La Parca for many years. They've just introduced a new wrestler in that character, so I guess La Parca is now technically a WWE superstar. But obviously, AAA over the years has genuinely contributed a lot of talents to the wrestling industry. And it says to show wrestling that Mexican wrestling has a place on the global stage. Honestly, AAA has been doing that genuinely for many, many years. They've contributed many wrestling talents over the years, from the Garzas to obviously, as was talked about when they made this announcement, which basically kind of came out of nowhere. There's been different various suggestions about um, talent relations and exchanges and working partnerships with AAA over the years, and with various different other companies with WWE as well. But this to actually acquire the company, I don't think many people really knew that this was going on, and it's a bit of a surprise. But wrestling talent like Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrera, the original Psychosis, again the original La Parca, many others over the years have come through AAA, the kind of developmental system. I've got one DVD somewhere. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere anyway in my shelves. It's got Rey Mysterio, and it's got some of his matches from again, like when he was um, I think it was one of the kind of before they were famous things. But it's got a few matches from, I believe it's Triple A shows and other, where he is facing Psychosis, who he was good friends and rival with, to again Juventud Guerrera and a couple of others. So there's been a lot of Mexican talent who, at one point or another, actually made their way through AAA. Obviously, again, typical of wrestling stars. Some of them will flit between companies. So let's take the original Sin Cara for example. When he did that not so great run in WWE, which kind of disappointed me. Instead of going back to CMLL, he went to AAA, and then eventually he's gone back to CMLL. Uh, you know, there's been lots of wrestlers who have flitted between these two organisations over the years, and again, have produced a lot of talent. I'm not really kept up with the international scene as I used to, especially in Mexico. Still, kind of obviously thanks to YouTube, we see some of the kind of least highlights or some matches from some of the shows that they do, which I certainly would suggest fans to go and look at, and find AAA on Lucha Libre AAA on YouTube and see a few of their things. Yeah, some of the things of Botchamania and stuff you'll see, but definitely it is a major organisation, a major acquisition for WWE, and a significant change. I may have said this already. Again about Hunter and Nick Khan talking about having over the years about having various different companies under the one umbrella. There's a lot of obviously speculation that this may lead to WWE trying to take over more companies, and it is kind of weird for me, that the Pena Rodan family, um, you know, are actually, you know, kind of willing to let it go. There's various different rumors and speculation right now over a few wrestling companies and about financial difficulties they may be in. I think New Japan has been mentioned. I think they're owned by a quite big conglomerate. Noah, I think, as well, which I think is also owned by a separate conglomerate. I think there's been a couple of big kind of businesses that have taken over. I think it's like Noah and Stardom. I think they're all kind of owned by. There's several of them, at least at one point recently, were owned by kind of the one company. It was supposed to kind of a family of wrestling promotions, but different rumors about it, and obviously the different continued different rumors about WWE wanting to set up different NXT regional developmental systems or regions. So the few clickbait titles of you know of AAA being renamed NXT Mexico, which I don't see happening. I don't think it should, but we might over the years maybe see NXT Mexico or NXT Europe. There's still rumours about that, and maybe NXT Australia and maybe taking over a company there. Maybe, but there's lots of various different rumours, wild rumours, and speculation. But this is it's weird that the family have been willing to seemingly let it go, which might indicate um, some financial difficulties possibly within that company because or it's again it's a lot of rumor speculation behind this. Some people have been commenting maybe they wanted to build it up a little bit to do what Vince did was to come back and to sell the company to another conglomerate, this time it being WWE and TKO and Endeavor. I don't know what the ownership structure is going to be for AAA in terms of is it just under WWE or is it entirely under TKO or Endeavour Holdings? I don't really know that. I don't think we'll really get that information yet. They are going to do that One Worlds Collide pay per view on June 7th, which is going to be very early because I didn't realise they also have Money in the Bank that night. I didn't realise that was actually the same day as Money in the Bank, June 7th. I'm really hoping that they will actually direct resources into AAA, and they'll kind of do similar to what they did with the NXT. I know that was obviously kind of their own thing, but I would like to see them do something similar to NXT in terms of giving it more resources and the right people helping run things and whatever help they need and try and build it up. I think there was an interesting, very, very interesting comment by Triple H from the post show press conference of WrestleMania Sunday, where he actually talked about Penta and Ray Phoenix, and said that obviously they've been big stars in AAA before. That kind of feels like home for them, and it seems to he seemed to hint at least that maybe they would have some involvement, and maybe some of the Latin stars that we, especially ones maybe we saw in that announcement being made. Obviously, there was Rey Mysterio that was there, Andrade, there was the Garzas, the LWO, Stephanie Bakur, I think it was there. Uh, I think maybe Triple H has kind of got an idea to actually involve some of them, at least maybe going down to AAA, and I don't think it's just this NXT where worlds collide, which I'm genuinely looking forward to, and I hope this gives a good. Again, I'd love to see like the new La Parka being on that. I've always liked that character. Whether it be the original one, Ellie Park, now as he's known, um, or the replacement one, I wasn't too hot on, but he seemed to be decent, and he was seemingly as a human being very, very well liked and respected in the company. Uh, People have still got there's still, I think, the votes are still out there, the thoughts are still out on the new one because he's just debuted a few weeks ago now. But certainly, I would love to see some of these talents really be given the chance to um, show what they could do. And again, with WWE and even the Performance Center, and maybe bring them up, and again, because you see some of the stuff from AAA and some of their shows, even the big shows like Triple Mania, um, on Botchamania and things like that. But so I that kind of help, that kind of polish and performance. I would really like to see WWE do that. There's been talk about by WWE, and a couple of statements supposedly, but again by Triple H and WWE saying that they really want to keep it lucha libre. They want to really kind of keep it in the Mexican style, which I sincerely hope that they do. They are obviously bought market share rather than kind of building it, and people have their own thoughts on you know how they go about it, and I would assume that it's past all the legalities and stuff. This announced now it's been announced because obviously when you have major companies taking over others who are a major presence, that sometimes there can be competition. Things I don't know what it's like in Mexico, obviously, but um, in some countries when you've got one company, major company taking over, really another major company or certainly major presence in an industry, then sometimes you have like competition worries from like the government authorities and stuff like that. Something I will say as well that I kind of before I go on to WrestleMania, they will certainly be changing a few things. I think with AAA, sometimes it seems AAA. I don't know whether just internationally, but there have been rumors over the years that sometimes with some wrestling companies they do that. They'll be kind of using copyrighted music, like La Parka characters always used Michael Jackson's Thriller. So there's been rumours and various over the years. I don't know what it's like nowadays. It might be perfectly legitimate nowadays, but there's been various different rumours that some Mexican companies don't particularly have the rights to use the music that they do. So maybe that's something that WWE um, will have to change. But this is definitely a big announcement. Again, I know some wrestling fans, unfortunately, if it's anything out of the United States, if it's anything outside WWE or even AEW, or it doesn't matter or it doesn't exist basically. But legitimately, this is a major announcement, a major um, change to the wrestling industry and to the wrestling landscape worldwide. So um, we're not going to see whether this is going to be a success like NXT UK that was set up. Again, going back to the kind of NXT regional stuff. and whether it'll be kind of serve as that or what it's going to be like, time only will tell. But definitely, uh, this is a much more major shift than I think a lot of, well, certainly American fans. I don't think some of them will pay attention to this kind of thing, but this is definitely a major change to the wrestling landscape than some of them will actually realise. So WrestleMania, this has absolutely been, a good weekend. I really enjoyed WrestleMania 41. I wasn't able, as I said in the predictions video, I wasn't really able to sit and watch night two because of work commitments, but I've caught up on it now. I think I said that earlier. It was really good. I think WrestleMania 41 was actually a really decent show. I don't think it was going to be like one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. There were certainly a few good highlights and a few surprises during the show. That certainly, again, some fans and some people will say, "Oh yes, well we knew that was coming or that was obvious." I'll go through that a little bit, but obviously I really kind of want to just kind of go through results. I'm not going to go in depth. There's a lot more busted open, and people obviously will go match by match and go through how the match went and things like that. I don't really kind of want to do that right now. Because there's loads and loads of people will be covering that kind of thing right at this time. So let's go through the results from WrestleMania 41. Firstly, Night 1 WrestleMania Saturday, as it's often called now, April 19th local time. Um, there was 7 matches in total on the card, which I think was the amount listed on Wikipedia. I recorded the predictions video midweek last week, so a couple of bits did get changed after the fact. But the event kicked off with Gunther defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso. This was the first match of WrestleMania. But that's the only annoying thing as well. They didn't seem to do the Stars and Stripes or any of the kind of American the Beautiful. They didn't do any that at least, unless I missed it was on maybe on YouTube or something, because I was watching something else before WrestleMania. So unless they did it on the pre-show, which I don't believe they did, from a couple of the comments that my friends did, because they thought, oh, it's Vince, no, Vince is Triple H doing the Stars and Stripes on American Beautiful. I don't think they seem to do that unless I missed that. But uh, Jey Uso defeated Gunther to win the World Heavyweight Championship. That was the prediction that I made. Glad to see it. I definitely think Gunther seemed to be not fairly happy on apparently during the whole weekend. Maybe it was because he knew that he was going to lose the title, but apparently a couple of pictures I've seen from the likes of the Hall of Fame, which was, I think that was badly timed. It went on for ages apparently, more than I think has been on YouTube. I think they've cut. I'm sure they've cut it on YouTube. I'm fairly certain that they have, because I'm sure it was like about 4 hours odd long on YouTube, and then it's suddenly about 3 hours and 20 minutes. I think they have cut it. Again, something because the start of time of that was 6 a.m. in the UK, and I'd been up. So Jey Uso defeated Gunther. I thought that was a decent match. Glad that Jey Uso won the title. Yeah, that was one of my predictions. I think it was a decent match. Wasn't as good as I kind of hoped it was. I didn't really enjoy it completely, but certainly glad to see Jey Uso be elevated. See his brother in the ring after it as well. So I'm glad again. I said in the predictions video, I believe that titles may change hands in this show, which some of them did, and definitely WWE were, I think, elevating not new talent, but elevating to some talent to higher levels, which I think that certainly started the WrestleMania off brilliantly by doing that with Jey Uso winning that World Heavyweight Championship. The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods defeated the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar, to win the World Tag Team Championship. I think that was a fairly kind of obvious one, given all the time that New Day have had over the last several months, the way that they've built them up. I think it was fairly obvious that the New Day were going to win the World Tag Team Championships. Obviously, with the whole kicking out Big E thing and reassessing, how they were and their attitudes and stuff like that. They hadn't held a tag team title for quite a while, so yeah, that was kind of a decent one. I really enjoyed that. Eric and Ivar are far more athletic than sometimes they are able to show. I know they've kind of both got health issues a little bit, I think, but definitely it was a decent tag team match. I enjoyed that one. Jade Cargill defeated Naomi in the next match. To be honest, I don't know, something I think is still missing a little bit from Jade Cargill. I think her and Naomi had a decent match. I think. Um, I'm not going to go through the times for the matches. Uh, Jade again is one I think I picked. I picked her for the win in here as well. So 3 for 3 so far. I definitely think again they need to elevate her. Again, they've invested, I'm sure, so much money and things like that, and bringing her from AEW. Again, I said in the predictions video, they need to elevate different stars and kind of change the landscape a little bit. And I think Jade Cargill, maybe maybe even for Io Sky's World Championship or something. Maybe have her go for that, or for the WWE Women's Championship. Definitely, I could see a title feud in Jade Cargill's uh, fairly immediate future. Next match was for WWE's United States Championship. Jacob Fatu defeated LA Knight. Again, another prediction that I thankfully made. Again, elevating Jacob Fatu. Again, I think they will go back to the Bloodline feud between the new Bloodline and the OTC and Roman Reigns. I'm sure obviously got a lot on his plate right now if he's going to be sticking around. Different rumours and speculation again on that. But Jacob Fatu, a guy who definitely deserved a WrestleMania moment, and to win the United States Championship. Uh, I've been impressed with him for the last several years. Watching him on like the MLW when I have been, and he's been a highly touted guy. He was one that WWE were very keen to get into the company. And this was a decent match. I'm sure LA Knight's not too happy having to drop the title at WrestleMania. Um, and I hope they continue to do something with LA Knight because he's a great talent. He definitely, maybe that frees him to go for maybe again the Intercontinental Championship, or another opportunity. Um, you know, but certainly uh, Jacob Fatu is being built decently well. Um, Decent match there, I think. A little bit, obviously, kind of unstoppable monster in him a little bit, but yeah, I think it was kind of a decent match anyway. And LA Knight put on a good performance, so I don't think you should be too ashamed of being told basically he's going to drop the title. El Grande Americano defeated Ray Phoenix in the next match. This was another one I think that this changed after I did the prediction video. Um, this was one of the couple of matches that unfortunately got I think for the first time potentially. I don't think there was as many matches had to be changed in WrestleMania history. I could be wrong, but I don't think, certainly near to the event, I don't think as many matches have been changed as they needed to um, at WrestleMania. This was obviously originally supposed to be El Grande Americano against Rey Mysterio. Rey obviously got injured on SmackDown, a legitimate injury, it seems. Uh, I thought, a lot of people thought initially it could be storyline, which it could maybe been, but it seems apparently it's a genuine injury. Uh, I picked El Grande Americano to win. I kind of like him, whether he's Chad Gable or not. Wink, wink. I think that this is kind of an entertaining thing. I don't know this acquisition to AAA. I kind of tempted to say send them, to be involved with AAA or have them involved maybe with a Worlds Collide pay-per-view, depending on what direction they're going to go with this El Grande Americano now. Because if I don't know what the injury status is right now on Rey Mysterio, whether he's going to be out for a long time or whether he's going to be fairly quickly back. This obviously was supposed to be a kind of a, again, it's not, as I said, the prediction is not really a lucha apuesta match where El Grande Americano or Rey's masks were on the line, because Rey did vow to unmask him. I don't know what would have happened during the match. Maybe we'd have seen it unmasked as Chad Gable allegedly, or maybe even some other wrestler if they'd done switch around, the switcheroo, somebody's El Grande Americano under the ring. Chad Gable supposedly escapes under the ring. Rey Mysterio is able to grab him, quote unquote, but it turns out that he defeats somebody else and unmasks some random person as El Grande Americano. How Rey wouldn't realise he's pinning the wrong guy out, I don't know, but kayfabe stuff. You know, that kind of old switch around, like they did with Doink at WrestleMania 9, would have been kind of cool moment. Obviously, this whole situation made them have to switch, so the match was switched to Rey Fenix, which I think it was a really good match. Rey, ironically, was able to make his WrestleMania debut before his brother Penta. But I'm guessing Rey Fenix was put in very short notice. You probably, it seems, be told, you're wrestling in WrestleMania, so he didn't have a lot of time to prepare himself mentally or physically, which I guess was, people could argue, if you're in WWE, you're supposed to be able to do that. You're one of the top wrestlers in the world, so you kind of, if you're asked to step in the last minute, always have your gear, is the kind of typical wrestling phrase. So it kind of definitely changed it. Who knows what would happen with Rey? But I'm glad El Grande Americano, whoever he is sticking around. Maybe they could even have something like the AAA if Rey's going to be out for a while. I don't know right now at the time of recording this, but if he is, maybe El Grande Americano can do some kind of bit with the AAA guys. Tiffany Stratton defeated Charlotte Flair to retain the women's championship. But yet again, another one I believe I predicted. So I'm quite good at predictions in night one, I think. And you go back on the predictions video and watch it. Not that anybody's really watching these videos, but I thought this was kind of a decent match. Wasn't kind of really crashing out at this point, to be honest. Being up really early. It was kind of a decent match. Definitely still Tiffy time. You know, somebody coming back and immediately winning a title, I thought would happen here. It wouldn't happen actually until the next night. Seth Rollins defeated CM Punk, who was accompanied by Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns, by pinfall in the triple threat match. I actually really want to hear the explanation of why Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman came together, what their relationship is together, if any, and to hear what the plan is, if any. That's certainly something I'm, again, obviously the whole part of the point of it, and I think Triple H said it in one interview that I saw about, that, things shouldn't have, it doesn't necessarily, WrestleMania doesn't necessarily mean that feuds will have a definite end. That just because these two people are having a match at WrestleMania, or three people in this case, just because they're having a match at WrestleMania, which I think definitely there are times to end a feud. There are times when the timing is right for a feud to end at the biggest show of the year. But there are obviously also times, like we saw in WrestleMania the other year. Was it WrestleMania 30? It must have been WrestleMania 39, when it was not quite Cody's time to win the title. There are times where you think this might be the blow off match, but actually it's just another chapter in the story. There are times where that will happen, especially in wrestling. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what, if any, the explanation is we get. And Is Paul Heyman going to be in alliance with Seth Rollins moving forward? What is that all about? You know, he low blowed both CM Punk and Roman Reigns. Heyman did, so I think it was a kind of decent match. I know there was like maybe a little bit too many using their finishing moves. Honestly, um, you know, I said I wouldn't go into timings. I was about a half an hour match, 32 minutes 55 seconds, according to Wikipedia. I think it was maybe a little bit too much using their finishing moves. I understand though, you know, if you're going to kick out of somebody's finisher, and if you don't have enough strength and energy to do that, there is only it's going to be WrestleMania that you're going to do that in, because it is the biggest show of the year. So if you're ever going to do that kind of thing, it will have to be at like a WrestleMania. I thought there was a little bit too many spears, too many curb stomps and stuff. Um, I think just a little bit too many. Um, but that's my own opinion. But I thought it was a really good match. Um, when I was able to sit there and watch it, because I kind of crashed out there that time. But certainly decent match, decent night one. 7 matches, fairly kind of short-ish matches, most of them. The first one again, I'm not going through times, but that was like 16 minutes 30 seconds. A lot of the rest of them were around about 10 minutes, until Tiffany Stratton was about 19 minutes, and the main event was obviously taking a larger portion of the time at about 30 odd minutes. So I think I kind of like that WrestleMania is 2 nights, because they can give some of these matches a little bit of time. I'm really glad. One of the things as well, before I move on to night two, although they didn't do the kind of America the Beautiful stuff, which is really I kind of maybe I missed on YouTube, but I don't think they did it at all. Uh, One of the things that I actually, again, they kind of give it good, like it is that they give these matches basically kind of good a good amount of time. And the one thing that I was going to mention, the one thing that I liked this year, there wasn't a lot of kicking around. There wasn't a lot of mucking about in segments and people talking. It was a year when they got on with the matches, and I glad that that was the way that they did it. Yeah, obviously there was a lot of advert spots and stuff like that, but uh, uh, generally this year they got on with the matches on both nights. So moving on to night two, kind of quickly, let's go through these. Io Sky defeated Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley to retain her Women's World Championship. This seems to be a really well received match. I actually really enjoyed it as well. Sam Roberts said on the post show on Sunday that that was his match of the weekend. I have to kind of agree with one of the better matches on even night two. I thought that was a really good match. The way the women worked together, obviously couple of them were going to be disappointed by the result. And I'm glad that, again, I think the prediction, I picked Io Sky to retain, because I wanted to have her to have a WrestleMania moment. In the night one main event, I picked CM Punk, but oh well. But I picked Io Sky to actually have her WrestleMania moment, and I'm glad she got it. They didn't. It came up on the graphics, but I don't think they mentioned some of the statistics. Unfortunately, likes of, I think it was last year. I think it was that Io Sky entered WrestleMania as the WWE Women's Champion, and now she's entering. She entered WrestleMania 41 as the Women's World Champion. I'm not sure if anybody actually in previous WWE history has done that. Gone into one WrestleMania as one of the women's world championships, and then got into the next WrestleMania as the other women's champion. You know, even whether it's Raw or SmackDown or whatever. I think maybe Bailey. I don't know why that's coming to my mind. Maybe Bailey has, but that was quite a, certainly very few people have done it. So definitely good match, really good match. One certainly a really good opening match. Drew McIntyre defeated Damian Priest in the Sin City Street Fight. This wasn't kind of a good one as well. I'm always been a huge Drew McIntyre fan. Glad he won it. Uh, I wouldn't mind it if Damien Priest had actually won the match. Certainly, he showed a lot of guts and determination. I don't know what they're going to do with Damien Priest going forward. I think that feud maybe has ended, but and I don't know what they're going to do with Drew McIntyre. They built him up a little bit. It seemed, it was kind of a decent match. Uh, I loved it. It was a really funny bit when Drew got the phone from his brother and take a couple of selfies that have been posted on social media. Um, and that was kind of a fun moment, but it's definitely kind of good match anyway. Uh, the Intercontinental Championship Fatal 4-Way match. Dominic Mysterio defeated Braun Breaker, who was the champion, Finn Balor and Penta, to win the Intercontinental Championship. I picked Penta for this. Obviously, he didn't win. Dominic's win actually seems to be rather popular. Of course, yes, it was an international crowd, and it was a different mix of crowd than WWE's general crowd. But especially the reaction again he got on the post show, which is on YouTube. He joined the panel, kind of looked like they were in an outside area. He was, I don't know where exactly they were, but they were kind of outside, and you could see the fans going past as they were piling out of the Allegiant Stadium. He got a really good reaction when he was there, and the crowd were chanting for him. They seemed to be using the same chant for everybody, but they were chanting for him. He got a really good reception. Uh, so I could maybe see him going off on his own, maybe away from Judgment Day. I definitely think, he's got the talent. I admit, when he initially came into WWE, I wasn't too sure about him, but he has grown. He is definitely developing as a talent. He could genuinely be a top um, main event talent in the future. He's certainly not there yet, but what he's shown so far, definitely, Dominic Mysterio is, definitely surprising everybody, and I think he certainly is going to have a good run with the Intercontinental Championship. And I think again, like I said about Drew and stuff, and about LA Knight with the United States Championship, I think this might free Braun Breaker to maybe go for another championship. The next match, now this was obviously again the one of the other matches that were forced to change. Randy Orton with the Open Challenge, celebrating, competing at his 20th WrestleMania. This, I wasn't even thinking about him, but he appeared. Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry was the person who answered Randy Orton's Open Challenge at WrestleMania Night 2, WrestleMania Sunday. This has obviously been, again, like the El Grande Americano Ray Phoenix match, this was needed a change because Kevin Owens, unfortunately, is injured, needs surgery, and he will be out of action for at least a year. Which is a great shame. I'm a big Kevin Owens fan as well. I know him and his kids really love the book Lucy's Blue Day, which he and his kid really likes. My friend Chris wrote that. Can't remember, I don't have the book here right now. Somewhere amongst the shelves, probably the other side of the room. I don't know the name of the illustrator, who is she does great stuff. But um, Kevin Owens is unfortunately out. But along comes Joe Hendry to, answer this challenge, say his name, and he appears. He even had a say his name's WrestleMania, he appears T-shirt on, which I think genuinely great. Another Scottish wrestler. I followed Joe's career since relatively the very early days, really, of his career. He used to wrestle here in Dundee for a promotion that I used to go to. Didn't appear too often, unfortunately. He did win their championship, but then other opportunities were presenting himself, some of which ended up as a bit of a con, unfortunately, um, in my opinion. But other ones, kind of helped him, I suppose, get exposure and get to at least get a start on the path that he is on now. So I put up a few months ago, a couple of months ago, still hopefully on, I think it still should be on YouTube channel. A video of Joe Hendry actually rolling around and wrestling around with the legendary Johnny Saint. And I remember that's an old kind of really badly conditioned kind of old gym place that a training school used to be in here in Dundee. They had a seminar with Johnny Saint and Marty Jones, and I just uh, I was filming it with the small camera I had at the time. Actually, I was asked to. It was part of a whole thing that never happened. Really an education kind of program. But I remember watching it, and obviously, even when I was 70 odd years old, I think he was at the time, Johnny Saint was wrestling rings around Joe Hendry. So to see him obviously built up and go to TNA and Ring of Honor and to even go at WrestleMania, and again, Triple H said in the post show to to Joe before he um, went to answer Randy Orton's challenge, before he went to make his entrance. Enjoy this. This is the most fun you'll have at WrestleMania, and basically said something along the lines of you've got more to come. So indicating that definitely Triple H wants Joe Hendry to be on further WrestleManias in the future. He said something like along the lines of he has a bright future in front of him, and I really hope so. And that is quite good. Joe Hendry. Firstly, he walks in as TNA World Champion, which is a great achievement. He also walks in as, I believe, the very first active Scottish wrestling promoter to actually compete at WrestleMania. He runs Discovery Wrestling in Edinburgh. He took that over last year, I want to say. Uh, so he's the promoter of that. First time a Scottish wrestling promoter, an active one, has competed at WrestleMania. And regardless of what people thought, okay, it turned into a little bit of an exhibition match for Randy Orton, a bit of a here's the legend killer kind of thing for Joe against Joe. But the honest truth is, and it comes right down to it, Joe Hendry got a WrestleMania match, got a WrestleMania moment in his entrance. Had a great entrance with spinning around, um, and he was on the grandest stage of them all overall. You know, that's an amazing achievement and a moment that'll live forever. Especially when you're talking about somebody like Randy Orton, Hall of Famer, you know, one of the biggest stars in WWE, literally one of the legendary performers, when people look back at like of his career and stuff like that, no matter what happens to Joe in the future, that moment will be replayed. And so, even if I've seen comments online, I say this because I've seen comments online about, oh, well, is that it? And no, could have been somebody else or should have been somebody else. And comments not thinking that much about Joe Hendry. People would have loved and done. I probably can't really say it on YouTube. People would have done things to be in that spot that Joe was. So, regardless of what we think about, he had a great spot, a great moment. Okay, your TNA World Champion kind of got squashed, but I mean, if you're going to get squashed, it's going to be by somebody like Randy Orton, and it's going to be somewhere like WrestleMania. That is an amazing moment and a match to have when he's an old man. That that'll be one of the moments and that he can talk about and you know um, I don't think next interview that he does, hopefully I'll get that I notice. Hopefully he'll be talking about it. But certainly, regardless of what you think, Joe Hendry, he's worked his butt off to get where he is. I'm glad for him that he got that moment. Again, people would have done stuff to get to where show was on Sunday. So he did it. He was the one that did it. And I'm glad to see that. Logan Paul defeated AJ Styles. I flicked through this match, to be honest. Not a Logan Paul fan at all. He kind of, I don't know whether in the post press conference he was trying to either be in, I don't know, really character. To be honest, I just don't like Logan Paul. He defeated AJ Styles. I know the thing. I think he believes his own hype. His matches are supposedly laid out weeks in advance, and he rehearses them. And honestly, it kind of, and I know maybe that's partly the point, but he was talking about the few matches that he's had. I think he's only had a few matches over the course of the last few years. Um, and again, a lot of them are laid out weeks in advance, so he knows them and he can rehearse them. And he acts genuinely. I think it's the real Logan Paul. He acts like he's a big deal. He's had a handful of matches in WWE. Um, uh, you know, he thinks a lot of himself, and I don't particularly like him, and especially some of the stuff he's done over the years and stuff like that. But you know, um, whatever. He won. Shame to see it. I was hoping AJ would win. Lyra Valkyria and her partner defeated Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez to win the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. This was again another little bit of a surprise, the return of Becky Lynch to partner Lyra Valkyria. Uh, Becky had said a couple of days before it in some improv show thing that she was kind of basically done wrestling for now, and I think a lot of people believed her. Glad to see her back. She's definitely going to be a great addition to the women's division. She's a big name. Obviously, yes, she'd come back and immediately win a championship. But I think if she could mix up with some of the newer names like the Lyra Valkyria, the Raquel Rodriguez's, and other talents that obviously it's WrestleMania season. You know we kind of typically get main roster debuts, and even maybe if she goes down to NXT or something, I think Becky Lynch working with some of the younger women and some of the greener women, some of the more inexperienced women, bring them along. I think that could be a great role for Becky Lynch, at least for the immediate future. The main event obviously was John Cena defeating Cody Rhodes to win the undisputed WWE Championship. This one would have, um, I can't remember whether I actually picked out winners for the women's tag team championship match, but whatever. I did pick Cena to win the match. I think, as I said, I was going to make the video, which ended up just running out of time. Wasn't ever happy with it anyway. Whatever version I did, I wasn't happy with it. I thought that Cena would win the 17th World Championship in 2025. It's his retirement year. And I thought the more likely place that he will win it would be WrestleMania, which obviously ended up happening. And I do think this was probably the correct decision, honestly. Uh, Cena again. I want to see him really take it into the summer months. I really want to see him, um, you know, face a few different opponents during this year. I know he's just been advertised for a premium live event in Australia and all that whole weekend. They've yet to announce what premium live event is going to be, what the name of it is, but they're doing his final last match in Australia will be the premium live event. And I think fairly, judging, especially with the way that they've been handling Cena with this heel turn, I definitely think it's the right thing for him to hold the title. As I said in the predictions video, the whole one of the aspects I was going to talk about in that talking Cena's 2025 video was I think the fact that he should hold the WWE Championship, certainly going into the summer months, can feud with different various individuals. With Seth Rollins coming out with that triple threat match winning, and again, people like Braun Breaker being freed from the Intercontinental Championship, that can often be a stepping stone to pursue a world championship. The Intercontinental Championship has often been a stepping stone, one of the many in WWE. So maybe him I would imagine LA Knight, but who knows? He's a quite popular figure. And there are various different individuals that they above again. Drew McIntyre as well. There are various different individuals that Cena can face, and I thought again, I thought maybe even going against like so Roman Reigns. I think he's going to have his hands full. Maybe even Seth Rollins. I don't know what direction they're going to go down with Seth and Punk and Roman, but Cena's definitely got a wide variety of people that he could take on. And again, depending on how many matches they want to do with Cena, unfortunately, it looks like they're being a little bit more guarded with the matches than I would like personally. Again, you could, as I said in the predictions, you could do 6-man tag teams. 6-man tags. You can do, various different multi-person matches where he doesn't need to be involved in the action all the time. You know, uh, you know, not thinking of like Money in the Bank matches, but thinking of ladder matches or something. There is matches he could do where it is multi-person matches where he could kind of so-called take a powder and go onto the floor for a little bit and come in a couple of high spots and stuff like that. There are ways around doing it for Cena. So I'm hoping that he will be present as well. Hopefully he will be a decent presence in WWE programming. Wasn't really asked, at least I saw on the press conference, about him being there. Um, Too much. There are different dates and stuff that he's advertised for, so hopefully he will be there on a fairly decently regular basis. Because again, it's his last year as an in-ring performer. To make this run mean something, he needs to be there. Cody obviously upset, as I would imagine he genuinely is. Losing the title on the biggest stage of them all. The biggest title at the biggest stage of them all, losing it. That's got to upset you, regardless of what your personal feelings are, regardless of the storylines, regardless of the situations. That's going to upset you. That is genuinely going to upset you as an individual, as a performer, as a wrestler. Winning, being the undisputed WWE champion and losing it at WrestleMania, it's honestly not a kind of footnote or mark that you want in your career. It's not really something that you want to do. Again, there's plenty of time for Rhodes to come back at Cena, and maybe we'll get a kind of maybe change of attitude from Cody. There was that spot of whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, and I said maybe we'll see Cena remain a heel or maybe return again as a good guy right towards the end of the year, so he retires as a good guy. I'm not too confident we'll see that. Maybe, because I think this heel thing is working really well. So I think maybe W want to stick with that right till the end, and kind of make it easier for fans to move on. But there is still definitely a huge amount of possibilities for Cena. A lot of different competitors that Cena could take on uh, for the WWE Championship. Certainly going in again, especially into the summer months. Again, whether he be champion as well, um, as the year runs out and as he kind of enters the last run to the last match. And I do hope that WWE are documenting this. I'm sure they are. Hopefully, they're taking lots of video and making a documentary about Cena's last year, because I think that would be a really, really good, especially if he's a little bit more open in the documentary. Obviously, knowing it's not going to be played until maybe late next year, maybe until WrestleMania time next year. Maybe he's a little bit open and discussing, we're doing this because of this. I know some people don't like that kind of openness in wrestling these days, but I think this is a unique opportunity to actually take a look at a guy's career winding down on the biggest level that there is. Because he is in WWE, the biggest stage, it's the biggest level, he's at the height of the wrestling industry. It's not like the wrestler film where Mickey Rourke is in working small independent shows for no money and is in bad shape and stuff like that. Cena is working WWE shows at the highest level I think it was quite a good performance at WrestleMania. And I think it was a really good, decent match. So, obviously, I would hope WWE are documenting it and we get a proper, again, maybe a little bit behind the scenes documentary. I like to see these behind the scenes stuff. Maybe again, we just a little bit being a little bit open about not necessarily being open completely about, oh, we're doing this, then we're moving on to this, then we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and laying it out. I don't mean like all that, but giving his genuine thoughts, for example, about it was a minimalist entrance, which I kind of figured it might be, but you know that's why we're doing this, and that's this is what we're thinking a little bit. Again, not necessarily going to all the detail, but at least you know laying some of the stuff out generally. Because again, especially with the heel turn, it would be really interesting to hear the thoughts, at least in a little bit, of why they're doing some of the stuff and how it's working, and his thoughts on the whole situation. So, I think WrestleMania 41 was a really good event. I think, I personally enjoyed it. Some of the matches were better than others, as you'd expect. I'm not going to go through them and pick them, but the update, like Triple H said on the press conference as well, and he said in a couple of interviews as well. Uh, it's dependent on the individuals. You know, people look at it different ways. Some people will deliberately go in and look at, like watch a movie, and you'll just some people just sit back and want to try and enjoy the movie, but others will try and pick it apart and pick, oh, well, this shouldn't happen because that, and then there's this plot hole, and then there's this mistake, and they shouldn't have been doing this, and why are they doing that? Because that's against what they said earlier and stuff like that. They'll, people will try and really pick it apart. But I think generally, WrestleMania 41 was a really good show. It's fantastic production. It was quite a good WrestleMania. I don't think that it's one that people will go back and watch that can say, oh, well, no, actually it was, it wasn't one of the best WrestleManias, or um, I think it will definitely be one that will be rewatched by a lot of people, obviously, especially over the next few weeks, especially the live crowd that were there. They'll want to see, if they aren't already, on Netflix and stuff like that, they'll want to see it on there. But yeah, WrestleMania 41 weekend, I think, was a good weekend for WWE. Again, a couple of surprise announcements, a couple of surprise appearances, and returns. It definitely, again, as I said, a little bit of a changing of the guard, which I kind of expected. Again, going with likes of Jey Uso, The New Day, Jacob Fatu, Tiffany Stratton again getting her kind of run with the with the WWE Women's Championship. Io Sky as well, the same. Dominic Mysterio getting that Intercontinental Championship. He seems certainly very confident in that. Um, and Cena obviously winning the 17th World Championship. Regardless of what you think about, you know, the number of championships that Ric Flair may or may not have, Ric's one of the best ever to do it, without a doubt. But Cena is, WWE like to have these records, as I said, but in that prediction video. But certainly, WWE had a really good WrestleMania weekend. Not watched Stand and Deliver as yet. That's gotten some good reviews. A lot of people seem to really like that show, so I'll have to sit down and watch it at some point. But definitely WrestleMania 41, a really good show. Definitely one of the better WrestleManias, I think. I always like WrestleMania 14 and small. Honestly, my kind of favourite one. And a lot of people like WrestleMania 17. Whether it'll make somebody's absolute favourite WrestleMania, I'm not too sure. But definitely looking at things, WWE definitely have some great tools in their toolbox to go forward into the summer and for the remainder of 2025. They definitely have got some potential, and I think certainly uh, a lot of wrestling fans, as I would imagine they would, should definitely keep their eye on WWE Post WrestleMania, let's see what happens tonight on Raw and on SmackDown in the next few weeks, leading up to I believe it's Backlash that's next. Definitely, WWE having a really good time of it. Again, like some of the feuds I mentioned earlier, just because it's WrestleMania doesn't mean it's necessarily just the specific end to this feud. And in WWE terms, just because it's just been WrestleMania doesn't mean that they have to stop building up. I think what we're going to see post WrestleMania promises to be just as interesting, just as exciting as we saw. I know some people weren't too happy with the build up to WrestleMania, but I definitely think post WrestleMania season that is going to be something well worth keeping an eye on and seeing what happens.